We're taking on the state of trucking insurance. Asking, how should it change? And what can be done to the industry to help make trucking great again? The insurance industry's grip on trucking has reached a breaking point, with skyrocketing premiums threatening to drive small operators off the road. We need immediate reforms to protect the backbone of America's supply chain. Frontlines tonight, we're diving deep into the critical issue that affects every trucker's livelihood and the future of our industry. It's about preserving the American dream for countless individuals and independent truckers who've invested their lives into this industry. Recent news articles have really gone deep into the focus on nuclear verdicts and their style cases and the unintended consequences and the aftermath of said events. Nuclear verdicts, these massive legal settlements that can exceed millions of dollars, have become a looming specter over the industry. Insurance companies faced with these astronomical payouts are passing the cost directly on to people like you and me through sky-high premiums that can reach hundreds of thousands annually. This crushing financial burden is particularly devastating for small, independent fleet owners and owner-operators who are already operating on razor-thin margins. So tonight, I want to bring to the front lines and ask you watching if you're worried about the future of this critical problem, what it looks like, how it's going to affect you and everybody involved, and what's being done to help keep our industry rolling. Let's figure it out.
Shall we begin?
From Truckin City Central Command, you are on the front lines. Truckin News.
The semi-truck driver accused of causing that deadly crash on Highway 285 this week now under arrest.
Cutting edge opinion, and we will make trucking great again. Built for truckers.
You should be hauling that freight based on what works for you.
By truckers.
Remember, get them done.
Featuring.
I think trucking is a very good career.
And I am gonna beat them.
I'm gonna beat him too.
We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Remember, truckers are people too.
Hosted by the El-Rushbo of Truckin News, Boss Man. Howdy-ho, broadcasting from inside Truckin City's main headquarters and Central Command, having more fun than any news show is allowed to have on YouTube. Boss Man here, 13-year veteran of the trucking industry, single-handedly pointing out to you that there is always a way to make trucking great again. And we do this with a skill given to me by God himself to help restore your faith in media, and particularly trucking channels, through continued efforts by me working full-time as a trucker and taking in information from you through your commentary, your emails. We together take issues to the front lines. I don't do this alone. I depend on you, everyday Americans, getting out there, calling our studio lines at 860-785-3547, emailing our show at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. This is a show built by truckers for truckers. So get ready to call us. Let us know your thoughts, opinions, and whether you agree or disagree. Tonight's mission, we're taking on insurance. And we're doing it so that it doesn't threaten and overtake our industry. We're locked and loaded with facts, and we're ready to engage you with your calls and your comments. Before we begin, I just wanted to make mention of the fact that there's a couple of headlines I thought I would make mention of. Here lately, we've had some good news come our way. One recently has been in the form of a FreightWaves video. It was briefly mentioned on a podcast, which recently had Mother Trucker enjoying some time on our show. One of the things he referred to was this freight recession that suddenly everybody was talking about. So I thought it'd be only fair to talk about what it was he was referring to. And here's a little bit of that conversation.
This is an important day. Breaking news. I'm here to declare the death and the end of the great freight recession. Don't rest in peace, by the way. Have a miserable time in hell. That's where you deserve to go. It has been miserable for all of us. It deserves to be haunted for eternity because it has been a miserable freight market. So I got to say, this is the end of the freight recession. I'm happy to declare it, Zach. Let's talk about why that's the case.
There are those like Mother Trucker that came on my show and opined on his thoughts that feel like the freight recession is over. Let me know in the comments what you think. But that was one of the things that was highly talked about and discussed on some previous shows here on Frontlines. If you'd like, go back, look that up, and be sure and look for Mother Trucker. We were talking about the forces that influencing the trucking industry. It was a good conversation. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Always want to give Mother Trucker the love he deserves for taking time out of his busy day to join us here. One more thing that is worth mentioning, another headline that caught my attention. Let me see. Appeals court looking for, here it is. Basically, appeals court talking about holding up a decision recently put through on whether or not to stop or interfere with Rhode Island catching tolls that were astronomical. You'll be happy to hear about a little bit of reprieve that came from this. Some things that are good to know. Again, links will be in the description.
First at 5, we're staying on top of breaking news on a long-awaited court decision deciding the fate of truck tolls in Rhode Island.
An appeals court in Boston just ruled the state's controversial truck tolls are allowed. 12 News reporter Alex Torres-Perez joins us now live in studio with a breakdown of what this means for truck drivers. Alex?
Well, Mike and Shannon, this is definitely a loss for local truck drivers, as this ruling means that the state could turn its tolls back on, but the decision also prevents local truck drivers from getting a break on the fees.
Something that's been following us for a while. If you want to get the latest and greatest on that news story, look it up. It will also be linked down below, and it will be part of a basically a future video, because I plan to do some more on this. I thought it was real interesting in that, yeah, I mean, who wants to pay those astronomical tolls, especially when people feel like they're targeting truckers of all people? And finally, another link I'll leave is an article basically with a video accompanying to it. I'm going to play a little bit of it here in just a second, but imagine if you have a breakdown, and I know you've probably experienced this, and you're given an instruction by a company that you don't exactly feel comfortable with. Well, one such driver actually ran into that same situation, and here's a little bit about it.
On Saturday, Patterson was making a delivery for Acme Transport Limited, a Surrey-based distribution company. He was driving through Washington State when part of the mirror on his passenger side broke off. Patterson says he contacted Acme to let them know and says he was told to temporarily fix it.
And their solution was to zap strap it.
He says he also tried taping the mirror, but that didn't work. Eventually, the company sent someone to repair it, but he says the replacement mirror was the wrong part.
Now, how often do we run into those circumstances? We have work done. It basically does the job, but you know, you're not exactly 100% sure. So it's been said by many in the industry, you are the captain of your own ship. You are the one that determines what's right, what's wrong, what's safe, and what's not. So put in the comments below, let us know if you've run into similar situations, if you've had to make similar judgments. And have you ever been fired for that? I mean, that's what this article is about. And if you want to read more and learn why he was fired, look at the link below and you'll get all the information you need. Give us a call, 860-785-3547. Our studio lines are open. You can also email our show at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. I look forward to anything you have to offer, thoughts, expressions, stories, or anything else that fits your curiosity. We're going to talk about today, clearly with trucking insurance, things need to change. There's a lot going on when it comes to trucking insurance. And I want to give some suggestions for what I think are, as depicted in my thumbnail, the top 3 things that we really need to change to make trucking great again. I encourage you to stay around to the end of this live feed, because by that time, I want you to hear my summary on what I think those 3 things are. In the meantime, earlier on in the week, I released one of those things in a video about an article on insurance where a lot was said. According to the editor of truckindive.com, rates are not the biggest thing, but they are the biggest threat. And we're not talking about freight rates. I was talking about insurance rates. Recently, that article outlined a cause for tonight's discussion. My question to you, is it safety, or are there some other causes at foot in this slow creep of trucking inflation we need to know about? One of the causes can be brought to light by watching a video recently that I released on this channel, link below. And here's but a snippet of that very video that I'm talking about to give you a taste of what tonight's discussion's all about. Because today we're rolling straight into the heart of an issue that's squeezing the lifeblood out of the trucking industry. Skyrocketing insurance costs is something written recently about in truckindive.com. Imagine this: you're investing in top-notch safety, breaking records with accident reductions, and still you're watching premiums double. In an industry known for resilience and innovation, truckers are coming together like never before to tackle insurance challenges head-on, proving that when we unite to address these critical issues, we can drive meaningful change for everyone on the road. Across the industry, marginal insurance costs have jumped 12.5% in just 1 year. Truckers of America, we're driving safer than ever, but the system isn't rewarding us. One such example of reward versus punishment can be found in a case whose core principle of existence can best be summed up by someone who's closely followed a landmark case in liability in trucking recently and appeared on a podcast called What the Truck. Give me a second here. And he had this to say about a recent case involving Warner Enterprises. All accounts say the drivers of the commercial motor vehicle in this case were in the right and not at fault. Yet, through a multitude of investigatory and discovery hearings, the question was leaked whether training was the reason the tragic events of that day unfolded. Many have opinions, but regardless of those opinions, whether they're good or bad, true or false, one thing is true. The precedent of what's being dealt with is what's on the line here.
This case has been going on for a while. This is the one where, if I'm not mistaken, a Warner truck went on the other side of the road, hit a vehicle, right? And that's where the liability came from. That's where the $100 million. Break this case down for us, Matt. What's going on?
On December 3rd, 2024, the Texas Supreme Court heard oral arguments with is the most important liability case in our industry. It was actually not the Werner driver who lost control. Instead, what happened here was another vehicle on the opposite side of the highway was traveling too fast for conditions, over 60 miles an hour.
What?
That passenger vehicle lost control, crossed the center line of 40 feet and then collided with the truck operated by Werner Enterprises. That driver had 3 seconds to make a decision. That driver was going below the posted speed limit, never lost control of the vehicle, and yet, it goes to trial, and Werner is found liable to the tune of $100 million.
Why would Warner be liable if it's the car on the other side of the freeway that passes over?
This is what makes it so absolutely inconceivable. The idea that you would have a duty to foresee a lane incursion on a divided highway is absolutely bananas. That is why this case is so important. It says if you do everything right, you can still be held liable. This case stands for the proposition that you can do everything right and still be found liable, which is absolutely not what we expect in the American judicial system.
Is there more court ahead for this case?
This is the last stand.
This was the
oral
last
argument
stand.
is the last thing. The judges will make an opinion. Once that opinion is rendered, that is it.
Now, I've been trucking over 13 years, and I've never been faced with this type of concern. I trained in upstate New York during the dead of winter. 6 inches of snow, ice, and commonly the decision to stay or go. Now, there are a lot of situations, a lot of risk, and a lot of protocols at play when it comes to safety in wintertime weather. I know you all are facing that very thing right now on the road as we speak and talk on this live show. Some states are taking on the responsibility with road closures and restrictions, i.e. PA and New York. If you go through those 2 states, they will literally close and restrict interstates. And while some progress has been made with state-level reforms like lower caps on economic or non-economic damages, Florida and Iowa are 2 states that are putting limits on medical claims. These are merely patches on a leaky dam, but when trucking is a national industry and we face beyond that a fragmented 48-state battleground where rules change, every state is being different. Companies like Warner are fighting this fight and having the issues we're having at the state level, but is it really helping? Is it really doing anything for the industry? I mean, here's the real question. What does anyone gain by hamstringing our companies and our drivers with exactly what this armchair attorney was talking about? Fear of the unknown, the endless litigation and soaring premiums, crippling. It's nothing but uncertainty, and it doesn't make us any safer, and it doesn't make us any better. It does, however, drive independent owner operators to the brink, raising their costs, leaving only the largest players to pick up the pieces of a fractured industry. What we need is common sense reform. Leave it to midlife, whom I don't see on the panel tonight. He'd say, we need more regulations. No, we don't. We need reforms. We need sensible decisions being made at the level with people that know the industry and are willing to look at situations like this Warner deal with the clarity it deserves. Most importantly, we need to stand together. As an industry, you and I need to come together, not just from the courts, but from the important standpoint of insurance companies who are doing nothing but merely profiting off our backs. Okay? We pay for stuff, and I pointed it out in the earlier video. We're paying for stuff, but we're paying double the rates, but we're only getting half the coverage, i.e. half the representation in issues just like this. So tell me in the chat, call our studio. Let's take this conversation to the front lines. What can we learn from this latest string of news stories? And what do you think the future of trucking looks like? I want to bring up a couple of guests and get some really decent opinions on this whole thing. First of all, Grumpy, how are you doing tonight? It's been a week since we've spoken to you. What do you think of this whole debacle over insurance and what it's doing to our industry?
Well, insurance rates have been too high for far too long. And, people play it like it's a musical chair. They want to pull from it like candy, is how I'll put it. I mean, you've got a lot of people that are in 4-wheelers that will jump out in front of a truck just to claim insurance money,
Mhm.
and it's costing us in the long run because it jacks our insurance rates up as drivers. Now, I'm a company driver, so I don't pay for it, but my company does, and therefore, if he's paying it, we as a driver are going to get the downfall because it's less money in our pockets that he's able to pay us. So it hurts.
It does. Nuclear verdicts like this set us up basically on a rabbit hole we're never going to climb out of. When it comes down to it, I mean, just the whole circumstance I described by itself is, it's worse than Alice's Wonderland. It really is. It's upside down, all canawampus when you think about it. I mean, because of all the storms I've been in and all the inclement weather situations, I mean, I give myself a lot of credit. I've made a lot of affirmative decisions about staying put when the need arose. I mean, learning to drive in 6 inches of snow, I think I've got it pretty good as term of making judgments. Now, I don't remember exactly what 2019's weather was, but the circumstances that have been leaked out during discovery say a lot about who was at fault. I mean, the armchair attorney featured on Watch Your Truck said it perfectly. The passenger car is driving 60 miles an hour, which was clearly way above and beyond for weather conditions such as what was mentioned, and the truck well within the limits. In fact, less than the speed limit. So the question that needs to be asked, do we as an industry need to fear the unknown like he worried there and like he posed? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I know exactly what happened is that attorney that's siding with the four-wheeler basically is looking after the factor that, they feel that we are professionals and we should know when we should be on the roads and when we shouldn't. And that's exactly what he's looking at, and that's exactly why he's blaming the truck driver. That doesn't mean the truck driver cannot drive in winter weather. It just means that that's what he's going to look at. That's the whole part of their case. They have it right there.
Yep, exactly. Welcome to the show.
There's the co-host. Wait a minute, that's the co-ghost. I'm sorry.
Oh, Ghost, yeah. I'm going to leave you on, John, because actually you timed it well. Take yourself off. Thing about the co-host is he's got just as much control over the show as I do. So I'll tell you what, John, you come in right when you want, brother, because I was going to bring you up anyway. You had good timing. Meantime, while we're waiting for that to go on, I wanted to welcome some of our guests in the audience. Griff USMC, recovering from a blown turbo last Monday. Sorry, man, those are expensive. I hate to hear that. Also want to welcome Nightmare into the show. You excited? I'm glad you are. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Nightmare.
Yep. A couple of other unknown faces looking for just names at the moment. Want to welcome anybody new into the show. Seems like we got Jackknife Television. One reason I'm not trucking anymore is my insurance went from $900 a month to $2,600. Wow, my friend. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're talking about tonight. Those fears are present and on board with everybody in not only the audience, but the industry as well. So if you're in the audience and you haven't dropped a comment, by all means, do so. Let me know your experiences, your fears. John, what's your thoughts when it comes to the case as laid out earlier? Should we fear the unknown? Should this be a fear for precedent? What's your thoughts?
Well, it's obvious. Anything done legally is a precedent. But I jumped in here because down in the comment section, people are talking about the Great Recession ending. And I made a comment saying, Great Recession, does that mean that, is that what we're calling it when people don't save money and then when the economic downturn hits, you're kind of screwed? Well, to give Griff a little thing here, he said he started after when it already had started to turn down. I get that, but, and I hate to say this, but remember, trucking doesn't have feelings. If you don't save
right
markets, then you're never going to make it in truck.
Well, yeah, your signal's breaking up, John. So I'll take the reins from that. I know the direction you're looking to go on that, so I'll give you a minute to get that straightened out. I'm going to bring in some other guests. Our friends up in the Central Midwest, they're Thumper and Bo. Welcome to the show, my friend. Dovetailing what John just said, I mean, when it comes to strategic planning and actually dealing with the so-called freight recession, I mean, you're either good or you're not. I mean, if you have a proper plan, you know, you can't always foresee things like $100 million verdicts, but things like the freight recession are a little bit easier to look on and digest if you're planned and straightened out well. What say you on that? Check your mute, buddy. Check your mute. No audio from you, Thumper.
There, that better?
That's better. There you go.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to push the little button up here.
Hear you.
I'm home. I don't know if you guys noticed, different background tonight. I'm home, so gotta get used to
On the
everything again.
background. Yeah, we got a couple in the backstage, and we've got one on the line. So, give us your thoughts, Thumper, real quick, and then we're gonna go to the line call-in lines.
Recession or not, I mean, you got to sit and think about it. I mean, the freight and everything is based off the stock market. Fate has said that once before. It's going up. It's going regardless.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to what I said yesterday. If you want better pay and everything, specialize in a career. You know, specialize in a certain part of the industry that if you want it to make more money. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yep. Heidi ho to Griff in the audience. Give us a call on our studio line at 785-3547. Welcome to the show, my friend. What say you about this whole freight recession? Do you feel like you're well enough prepared, or do you think John pretty much hit it on the head?
Well, not prepared stuff because I'm going climbing uphill stuff and everything. Didn't have any money saved when I became an owner operator and everything stuff. And so I'm going up. So I'm glad to see that. I'm just what I stated in the comments. It's just hopefully it'll stabilize at a decent rate.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was running and was down stuff, I was still making some good money, just like they would say stuff. He was making good money. Heck, one of his better years was during it and everything because he was able to get it in the right area stuff, and he was doing it right.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
As John said, well, trucking doesn't have feelings. I agree with him on that, but I did say, like I posted in comments, I did take a good kick in the cojones stuff with my turbo going out, but luckily the carrier I had a spare used one stuff, and they brought it up, and I got back on the road, but I haven't seen what that's going to cost me yet.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that.
What motor do you got in that thing?
It's
Thumper,
just an uphill battle right now. So.
Yeah, Thumper was asking what motor you've got in that truck.
IXX.
He's got a Cummins.
It should be about $6,000 for a brand new turbo, and that's not counting the labor. That's just the turbo itself.
So yeah, the one turbo I've seen stuff when I looked at it stuff was like about $4,000 online for that particular series that I had. But luckily stuff, but it's probably going to cost me at least a couple grand stuff for the used one, which I'm not going to complain. They got me back on the road, but it's just setting me back stuff. I'm trying to get going in the right area.
Yeah,
but it happens though. That's trucking though. You know,
right.
I'm not going to be a millionaire. I'll be lucky if I make $500 profit overall stuff in a 2 or 3 month period.
Yep.
But as long as I keep my head above and my truck running stuff, that's all I care about.
I hear you there. I'm going to bring on one person for a quick answer to a question. I saw where you put in the comments there, poet up here, the same as in the USA. Insurance companies dictate who gets hired. Is that truly your thoughts on our discussion about insurance?
That's basically my thoughts. Companies run by immigrants, they self-insure their church or through their temple or whatever.
Right.
Can afford all that. But no, insurance companies here, will dictate who you can and cannot hire.
Well, to the degree that I was bringing it up, they can make or break it. A company's existence because they don't have so much control over who gets or who don't get hired. But I do feel like they do have a huge influence on whether or not somebody can survive. Because in the case of the one comment that I did highlight, Jackknife Television or Jackknife TV said that it went from 900 to 2,600. Yep. That's incredible. I mean, I don't know what happened to him personally, and if you want to opine, go ahead. What do you got to offer on that one, Fate? Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Poet's basically right.
Mhm.
Insurances dictate who can be employed and who can't be employed. You have to run every applicant through your insurance to make sure that the insurance company is gonna insure them to drive your equipment.
Right.
The one thing that we got to be careful about when you talk about self-insured carriers, a lot of your major carriers are self-insured, but they're only self-insured up to X amount of dollars, and then insurance companies kick in.
Right.
No company is 100% self-insured. I mean,
No.
they'd have issues like Warner, and they wouldn't have the money to pay it.
Well,
But
there'd be liquidity, but that doesn't really change what we're talking
but
about.
I
get what
I
you're
can
saying.
talk about the increase in insurance real quick.
Sure. By all means, please.
So my renewal just came up for, now I'm not a carrier. I'm leased onto a carrier, which means I still need to carry bobtail insurance. And that basically protects me and my equipment when I am not laden, meaning not under a load, right?
No, exactly.
Not dispatched by the carrier, let's say.
Right.
I just got my renewal form, it was probably 2 weeks ago, and my insurance was going up like 59% for no reason. Well, there was a reason, but it was the insurance company's fault for that reason being on my driving record that they ended up fixing. But you better shop insurance companies right now. I mean, I was told by my broker that the insurance companies right now, or insurance right now, is going to see an increase between 40 and 50% off of previous years.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. But the
It's
other side is,
it's a lot more than the statistic I mentioned in my video. I'd mentioned something like 12-13% annually, but you know, I mean, that's
it's way higher than that.
Way higher. Yeah, I guess it depends on who you are and what end of the industry you're in, I guess.
Put it this way, my insurance was going up to $5,800 for the year, or sorry, $8,500 for the year. That would have been like $708 a month.
Wow.
I currently pay $412 a month. But because I shop stuff, and I didn't go with Progressive, thank goodness, I got it down to 40. My premiums, $4,300 for the year is what I paid. Because I pay my insurance, I pay my premiums in full. One time a year. You can usually save a little money doing it that way.
$1,500 is still better in your pocket than it is in the insurance company. So I applaud you for that. Yeah, it's a lot better to have it in your pocket than anything. Griff, anything more you want to add to before I cut you loose?
No, I just wanted to kind of clear that because I didn't want John being confused up and everything stuff because I wasn't stated. I just, like I stated, I just started driving OTR after supposedly the recession kind of for where everything started going downhill in July of 2022.
Well, I think things are. I think personally things personally are looking up. Fate wants to add one more thing. Go ahead, Fate.
Did Griff call in to cry again? Doesn't he know trucking don't care about your feelings?
Sorry about that. Hey, why don't you make sure you don't curb stomp that poor truck anymore?
Yeah, right. You know what, Griff? I'm glad to hear that you got your truck fixed, man.
So am I.
I'm happy to hear that, dude. And just keep pushing forward, bro. You know, I know we want things to change. Only you know how far you're able to go. but just keep pushing forward, man. 1 foot in front of the other every day.
Amen.
Nothing in this life is given to us freely. We have to work for it.
Yes, sir.
Embrace the struggle, embrace the pain, because
sir.
that will make you a better overall person in the end.
Yes.
Yep.
God bless you.
All right. You
Better
you
words
guys
can never
have
been
a good one,
spoken.
stuff and everything.
Yep. Well,
Yeah,
Grip,
good
we
one,
enjoy
sir,
you.
and,
We enjoy you calling in, and certainly thank you. And look forward to it next week.
all right. Thank you. You
God
guys
bless
have a
you.
good evening.
Take care. Keep it rolling, my friend. You know, when it comes down to it, insurance is a pain in the butt. I mean, what do you guys think is the root of these things we're talking about? You know, the reason the system is broken, as Jackknife says, it's too broken at this point. We're not going to be able to fix it in return unless something drastic happens. Well, let's key in on that. You know, like the comments are there. Let's use them. What drastic change do you think would it take to bring things back to the way they were, or even close to it? Not that they'll ever get back there, but let's start from there. What do you guys think it'll take? Anybody?
Well, we got to be clear about one thing first.
What's that?
Not everybody is experiencing an increase in their rates. I got a buddy that has grown his fleet pretty quickly, and he was concerned about his interest or his insurance rates going through the roof, and they actually went down. So we got to be clear about this. And like I just said, my bobtail insurance, which is much different than carrier insurance, is actually lower now because I went out and researched and sought new insurance. You know what I mean? So we got to be clear about that. Not everybody's facing.
I got him. Don't worry. Keep going.
Not everybody's facing increases.
Yep. Well, that's true. That's true. And yeah, Will, I saw Will Randolph in the backstage. I was about to add him, and then all of a sudden he bounced, but he's got a comment in here. I can't really make heads or tails of. So, dude, if you want to hit that link and come on back in, I certainly welcome it. Yeah, just had poor timing tonight, my friend. I'm sorry. Let me see. Too broken. That's the one I just read. I'm trying to catch up on comments. People, please bear with me. Somebody Ezel, the darn TikTok truckers ain't helping any of this, making trucking great again 2025. You know, everybody's got a different thing. I mean, you got your TikTokers on trucking, you got your YouTubers on trucking, you know, and you've even got these fancy Instagrammers that think they know it all. I mean, I don't know. You know, can't blame it on one platform.
You know, there's pretty much all of us on here that are on TikTok, just like.
Right? Yeah. See the little fella there. Say hi, little fella.
Say hi, Michaela.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hi.
Hi, there you go.
That's my daughter. Like I said, I'm on my home time, so.
Yeah, yep. That's a future trucker if I haven't seen one right there.
Yeah.
That's a great picture. I love that. That's good to see. See, Jackknife Carrier 411 making reference to that. Never going to give carriers a voice to fight back. FCSA will not care about the health of the industry and more about revenues. You know, I mean, the way things currently are, I'm tempted to agree with you. But I'm an optimist. I like to look ahead, and I like to see a possibility of change where none exists. Because otherwise, why are you turning the key? Why are you getting in that contraption traveling across country? Why are you trying to make that dollar? If there's nothing to be optimistic about, yeah, carrier 401's against us. It's a tool brokers use. But am I threatened by it? No. Because just as many times as there's a carrier 411, there's a system for me to use that I can bypass that sorry bastard that doesn't deserve my business. That's all I'm saying. What do you guys think? Agree, disagree? I see some shaking heads. I don't see any noddings. Okay. Insurance is a big Sam. Ezel says there's absolutely no way they can justify that increase. No, I don't see where they can. But then these trials and Warner settlements for, get this, it wasn't in the video, but I know this firsthand. It's not just $100 million right now that's up for grabs. Okay. We won't know about the final verdict on what happens in this court in Texas until sometime in March. And by that time, when that final verdict is given, that armchair attorney was talking about, it'll be up to 130 million. So think about it. There's roughly 10 million bucks a month. This thing keeps going on. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, quite honestly, good for them, but sucks for us. That's all I'm saying.
Can I comment on the last thing? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Poet, you first, then John. Go ahead, Poet.
I have a feeling that the Supreme Court wants to put limits on these nuclear verdicts.
They've already talked about that, and there was actually an article that was published. I don't think it was Landline, but I do think there was a discussion about that had because of those very issues being discussed. So yeah, that is something that's being talked about. So far, all we know about are the medical limits, but in terms of the civil cases, we haven't reached that turning point yet. I'll be back with you in a minute, guys. John, did you want to add something?
Yeah, not about the nuclear verdict thing, but you guys were just talking about how they're not helping trucking look good and that kind of thing. Let's be honest, okay? And this isn't going to be a popular opinion, and I'm sorry if it offends anybody in the audience, but let's be honest here. Truckers don't help our own image. If we all acted more professional, if we all did things the way they're supposed to be done, our industry would be looked upon totally differently than it is. There are bad apples that ruin it for everybody. And I think we should focus on making the trucker side of it better before we worry about the things we can't control. Because
very true.
If we were all just accountable for ourselves and did things right, trucking would be much, much better than it is right now.
This is true.
No matter what the freight market said.
Very, very true. Very true. You're getting an attaboy from Fate, so I guess he agrees with you.
Well, I gotta pat John on the back here real quick, because that is probably the clearest, most precise comment he has ever made on this show. So congratulations, John. That was, I agree 100% with you on that.
How do I make a good comment and somehow feel insulted by that? What the heck?
I was just going to bring that up. That's the first time I think this kind of discussion's happened on this show. So
I think he just while he was patting me on the back.
Yeah, right. I'm glad I got this recorded. This is cool. Jackknife says, I seen the fuel out the other day. A hotshot driver removed his decals, held on thumper, from the window and put up new decals along with logging into another phone and placing it on his dash mount for his ELD. Now, I don't know what that insinuates, but you literally can change companies that fast. I mean, I don't know the point you're trying to make, but if you're done with a company and you want to move over to somebody else, I was done on a Thursday and literally with another carrier on Friday morning. I kid you not, it's that easy. So not really that it has much to do with it, but I mean, if everything else in this industry were that easy, maybe you wouldn't have to pay $5,800 for insurance, Fate. What do you think? Just saying. But I mean, yeah, you can do that real simple and real easy. So let's talk about some solutions.
Well, what I said applies to the insurance also.
Oh, okay. I kind of understand that now. Yeah. I was pointing out a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know, I understand. But if people are more about the way they drive, insurance rates wouldn't be like they are. Not that it's 100% on the truckers. I get it. But there are things we cannot control. All we can control is what we do. A famous YouTuber named Fate Trucking told me one time, you don't worry about things you can't control. Best advice I ever got. Guy is a friggin' genius. Just saying.
Well, I got to wonder if when I leave here, if I'm going to have any money in my bank account to buy knee highs, because it's really getting thick in here. I'm just saying, Solutions, my friends. Let's talk solutions. We're 44 minutes into the show. What practical steps?
On me, I cleaned out the trailer, so.
There you go. What practical steps can we as businesses take to mitigate these problems and these concerns about nuclear verdicts, rising insurance? Is there a collective solution we can talk amongst ourselves or proactively put to good use to help those watching this show? What would you guys like to offer in that department? Go ahead, Fink. Go ahead. You're in the hot seat anyway.
Well, I'm not big on regulations and the government stepping in. There's nothing we can do about the nuclear verdicts. I mean,
no, absolutely.
That is out of our hands, no matter how evidently, if you read the article here, the Warner driver, the only real argument you could make is maybe he shouldn't have been on the road, but that's not $100 million argument. There was nothing stopping him from proceeding with his day. He did everything right.
Yes. I'm glad you stopped yourself there, because I was about to challenge you on it, because a lot of people in the media are standing on that very crutch that truck driver had no business being on the road, which I don't fully agree with. So you mean to tell me, and here's my argument. So you mean to tell me that we as an industry are supposed to cripple ourselves because of a raindrop or an ice cube or cold temperatures? When are you going to get your packages? You know, that's my argument. It's stupid that everybody blames us when we have the capacity for control and safety first of all things. So go ahead, Faye.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. Since he referred to it,
yeah.
What is the one thing that they're citing that he did wrong?
The thing that they're citing, the defense actually fighting the case, is saying that the thing he did wrong was made the decision to allow the training driver to operate the vehicle. The first thing was the training driver driving, and the second thing was driving during hazardous conditions, which they're saying he shouldn't have been doing. He should have had
hazardous conditions.
Yes.
While the trainer was asleep in the bunk.
Yeah, I agree. You agree, and everybody here agrees. That's piss poor control over our training situation. I agree.
Let Thumper say something.
Go ahead, Thumper. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to point out a few things here. The roads weren't closed. If they were closed, then yes, he was forced to shut down. If the roads are open, it is by driver discretion if you are going to go or not. Now, on my line of work with the cattle side, it's a little different. If we got cows in the box, we go. We have to get them out. That's simple as that.
Yeah, well, there's a different dynamic to play with you, so I understand that.
Yeah, and I've driven where I couldn't even see the drop visor on my truck, and that's right up against the windshield.
Right.
So, no, but the thing is you have a commercial driver's license. You're supposed to know better on this stuff. Well, my opinion, if the roads are closed, you are forced to not drive. But if the weather's bad, it is your discretion if you're going to drive or not. And according to those guys, they woke up, looked at the weather, probably looked at the roads and all that. And they're probably like, okay, well, maybe it is okay to drive. So they took off and drove. Well, it's not their fault that the other car on the other side of the highway hit them. But you're a commercial driver. You have a commercial driver's license. You're always at fault. Simple as that.
Well, you're the one that's most liable. But I can tell you personally, having been in it over 13 years now, I've been faced with many circumstances, both as a company driver and as an owner of a truck, where I did both things. I said, okay, I can handle this. There is no problem. Thankfully, got through, no issues, had every thought of safety in front of me. But then I've also had the side of saying, well, maybe it's just not worth it. And I've decided against operating the vehicle. I've stayed put. At times I wanted to drive, but I've been on both sides of that argument. And I frankly don't agree with the premise that just because someone takes the decision to drive in a situation not everyone else would, doesn't mean he's automatically at fault. doesn't mean he's not trained to handle it. Go ahead, Faye.
I agree 100% with that, boss man. Your experience, like all of us here on a panel, we all probably we all know our limits. My limits might be different than yours.
Exactly.
Thumper's limits might be different than mine. The fact that Thumper just said he couldn't see his drop visor. Now I know we do different things, Thumper. Like I never would have driven in that scenario. You know what I mean? But I understand your position.
I will say this. I was sitting there. I'm trying to think of a polite word to say this without, because we're on YouTube. I was politely yelling at dispatch saying that we should have never dispatched out because we knew the blizzard was coming. And I did. Every 5 minutes, I'm sitting there like, we shouldn't be out in this and that. And I'm sitting here doing 15 mile an hour on a 75 mile an hour. I was the only stupid idiot out there driving. From the place to kind of sum it up is the place that I was at to where I needed to go. There was nowhere for me to stop and unload the cattle till the morning, so I had no choice but to go. But if we ever run into a situation like that when we're doing a long, you could stop at a sale barn, you could stop at a feedlot. It just happened to be where I was at when the blizzard hit. There was nothing until I got there.
Poet, let me ask you a question. Your experience being in Alberta, your experience with dealing with inclement weather and decisions like that, what does it take for someone like you to say, you know what, maybe I just shouldn't do it? I mean, is it that easy, or is there something else people aren't aware of watching this show today?
When I was young, I used to run my ass off. It didn't matter what it was. As I got older, I got a little less stupid.
With age, we all do that.
It's like the old saying, when I was young and stupid. Yesterday.
Yesterday. There you go. Cute.
Every day is a new learning experience. I get out and walk on the road before I start driving.
Wow. That's interesting. That's an interesting way of, now I'm curious, why do you do that? Is there a specific reason for that, or is that just something you were taught to do?
It's something I've learned to do over the years because black ice, you can't see, but it'll sure put you on your can real quick.
I was wondering if you were going to mention that, but good call. Grumpy, let me ask you a question. What do you think is really where we need to stand, the role of media and public perception on this very topic we're talking about? I mean, think about it. Every time you turn around, major mainstream media is putting out these stories like we're seeing, talking about the $100 million verdicts, the decisions to stay or go, the impact of truck wrecks and all these things that make us look bad. I mean, what do you think that's doing to not only our industry, but the way people actually look at it? I mean, somebody like yourself talking to thousands of people on Facebook every day, you must have some sort of sense of what the industry or the media, it basically is doing to our industry. So what do you think?
Well, just like everybody says, the news is always going to make us look bad no matter what. So we've got to figure out a way to make ourselves look better and show the good part of us. I mean, there's a lot of it out there that's just not getting out to where people see it. I mean, they know we bring their goods to them, and that's about all they really know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to know it goes on, but it's another entirely when, there's story after story after story, just it's beaten into you how this one's not trained, that one's not trained. I mean, I'm not going to specifically call out a segment of the industry, but I will say this. There is a large room for improvement with a segment of the industry that currently is given carte blanche. We do need to pay more attention to. And I think once it's addressed and I think once it's called out, it'll make a huge difference. And I'm not going to say the word, but I'll just say they're untrained and they're not correctly shown what the industry is. They're given a set of keys too quick. They're told where to go too fast. And they do just that. They get there too fast and cause accidents. That's all I'm saying. And the media loves jumping on that stuff. I mean, they hit it hard like a freaking nuclear bomb. They do it every single time. Did you want to add something, Fate? I saw you with your hand up.
I'd like to see the numbers on that. I know where you're going. Like,
Yeah.
and I understand. And it's not that I disagree with you.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
think
It's a dicey subject to talk about, and the reason I don't have the numbers is because I've not dived into it yet. But I've seen
Thumper's on here. Let's call a spade here real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
None of us except Thumper
Mhm.
are is a cattle hauler.
True.
What do we all know about cattle haulers? They're gonna blow the doors off of our truck, even if we are going 5 miles over the speed limit.
But does that necessarily make them a bad segment of the industry? I don't know. I don't
know how many.
negatively
I don't.
industry people.
I don't know how many accidents are caused by, cattle
Thumper?
haulers. You know what
Thumper?
I mean?
Do you know those statistics? Do you have any idea?
I was trying to prove a point here. Like, we can't.
True. And I'm willing to back your point up because I think you make a valid point. Just because an industry is shown through the media to be one side of the coin or the other, doesn't mean we need to take it at face value. So I receive what you're putting out, and believe me, I totally agree. John, did you want to say something?
Go ahead, Pete.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one more thing about this verdict and insurance, right?
Sure.
I believe Warner is one of the companies that got the exemption from the FMCSA that the trainer can be in the bunk asleep while the trainee is driving the truck.
The only company I know of that received that was CR England. I do not think Warner had that exemption. Do not think they did.
Well, I know there was a few that had it for a while. Anyways,
yeah. That you could be right.
I want to
but
be clear.
I'm
I want to be clear about something real quick though.
Go ahead.
I don't blame that trucker for what happened. And not one bit. And I cannot believe a jury of my peers found him liable and Warner liable. That just blows my mind.
Yep. Jackknife says you don't see giant accidents involving cattle haulers all the time on the news, although I'm sure it does happen. Yeah.
Oh, come to Minnesota. They're all over the news on Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot. All I'm going to say is there's probably a lot about Wisconsin. I don't know, but I'll find out someday, I'm sure.
Going back to the training.
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to say this real quick before we move on. Going back to the training, I don't know the statistics either, but I can give you a story that happened to me. And I'm sure all of us have training stories that when we started about some of you were on trucks for, weeks and months at a time.
Right.
But I think what happened to me is more what happens these days, because I could be wrong, but I think out of everybody on this panel, I have the least amount of experience. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So
you're probably one of the lower numbers. Not entirely sure though.
Yeah. I'm the guy that's the new guy, and now I'm fine with that. But let me explain. Okay, nowadays I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Now this was 7 years ago, so it's probably different now. It may not be, but the company that I worked for, I started with one company. I worked there 2 weeks. Went from that company to another company. The second company trained me. I had 2 weeks training with the first company. I was supposed to be with them for 8 weeks. The second company I went to, I went out with a trainer for 1 week. He slept while I drove, never trained me a darn thing. And then when I got back from that, they handed me keys to a truck. 3 weeks after I received my CDL, I had a truck. I was on the road without a trainer. That is what is wrong with if there's any carrier out there that does that, that's what's wrong with our training in our industry. I had to teach myself how to do stuff. And there's a guy on this panel that'll pick on me about something that I did when I was kind of new because I was never trained properly. I taught myself how to do everything.
How many of us?
I sat
Yeah.
at
How
truck
many
stops.
of us in the industry can relate to your story, John? Honestly, I think a lot of us out there probably did a lot the same way you did.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
the reason why I'm saying that is because going back to the Warner story. Now there are reasons why trainers can be in the bunk while the trainee is driving.
Right.
There's times that's acceptable.
Legitimate
So
ones at that. Legitimate ones at that.
just knowing that he was in a bunk doesn't automatically mean it was a bad thing. Like maybe he's been with that
Exactly.
guy for 6 weeks, and he's got 2
It
weeks
could have
left
been
in
his
it,
last.
Yeah,
It could have been his
yeah.
last day of orientation, and all he had to do was get back to the company to get a new truck. He could have been certified already. All of that was eventually muted out as a cause. So that's no longer up for debate, but it was originally fodder for discussion, and a lot of media pundits took aim at that and really made it a bigger issue than it had to be. That's one of the reasons I brought it up. And you know what? It proved poo-poo as an argument. It really did. Because at the end of the day, what wound up being the crux of the whole $100 million argument was whether or not they should have stayed at the truck stop. That's what the eventual argument settled on. And that's, to me, ludicrous, because that does what I said in my open, which is it hamstrings and ties hands of carriers all over the place if we're forced to shut down instead of riding, when we could safely maneuver. And it's just ridiculous.
Well, wait. So why isn't that true for the four-wheeler that lost control and went across?
Thank you. You're the only one that's picked up on that, because I didn't mention that. I wanted to see who picked up on that, because that's the other thing that was missed. Number one, that four-wheeler chose to drive, and they blamed Werner for driving when they should have stopped. But at the same time, defense hinged on the crutch of that decision Werner made, but failed to allow in evidence the fact that the passenger vehicle was traveling at 60 miles an hour, which was 15 miles over the posted speed limit in those kind of road conditions.
Well,
because
that's what I said. That's kind of what I said earlier. It doesn't matter if you got a normal driver's license, you can almost pretty much get away with murder on the road. If you have a commercial driver's license, you are responsible for everything. It doesn't matter how small it is.
Here's my take on this. I agree with what you're saying, Thumper. There's one exception to that. The idea that being a commercial motor vehicle, you are held to a higher standard. Fully agree with it. Endorse it, support it, and expect it of every one of you on the panel and everybody I ride next to on the road. However, that is not an automatic crutch for just because you are in the wrong place at the wrong time, you suffer, you owe me. Nah, sorry. I draw the line there. Just because the man decided to drive doesn't mean that higher standard applies to a decision. It applies to when he drives.
No,
okay, boss man, I'm going to bring this up.
Go ahead,
Insurance.
Grumpy, yeah, go ahead.
Insurance companies look at on anybody. I mean, they're going to look more towards a professional like we are before they will a four-wheeler. But insurance companies will tell you if the roads or the weather or anything is unfavorable, do not drive. If you do, suffer the consequences. So he done the wrong thing by doing so. Whether or not, the factor of it is, I mean, he could have been doing it because he knew he had to get it done. He could have been doing it because he was going to try to get to a safe place. I mean, there's a lot of different things there. But when you boil it down to a black and white piece of paper that somebody wrote, there you go. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, here's
Let me play this.
Operated by Werner Enterprises. That driver had 3 seconds to make a decision. That driver was going below the posted speed limit, never lost control of the vehicle, and yet, it goes to trial, and Werner is found liable to the tune of $100 million.
Did you hear that? He was traveling below the posted speed limit and still found liable.
Okay, here's
something. Like Grumpy's.
I'm not hitting on the speed limit. I'm hitting on the factor that it's professionalism, and it's also an insurance thing where the insurance are basically going to side with the factor that you don't drive if the weather is unfavorable. Period. I don't care if you're a four-wheeler. I don't care if you're a big truck driver. If the weather conditions are unfavorable, you make the cool decision and say, I'm stopped. I'm not moving.
All right.
A friend of mine says words have meanings. I'm going to change it. Facts mean something. And guess what? The facts of physics is a big, heavy truck can be on a road that's not exactly desirable for a four-wheeler and survive just fine because the weight is heavier and it can, the traction is better.
Let's also enter into this, Grumpy, something you may or may not be factoring into your discussion a second ago. Important point to realize, okay? Passenger car was traveling westbound on interstate, whatever. The commercial motor vehicle is traveling eastbound. There's 40 feet worth of median between passenger car and commercial vehicle. The car loses control, crosses 40 feet of median, and slams head on into the truck, therefore ending his own life.
And I said a while ago, both of them are in the wrong. But they're going to go after the one that is supposed to be professional.
True.
We are taught in school. No. We are taught in school.
The trucker is not wrong. I agree with what John said. We are not held to a standard.
Physics are real.
We are.
Listen, hold on, guys, time out here. You guys are missing. You are missing what Grumpy's saying, because what Grumpy is saying is actually correct. You have to look at what the insurance company requires. You guys insure your vehicles, right?
Right.
You know, Thumper is a carrier. You will get packets from your insurance company. Like right now, I bet when I go home at the end of this month, because it's wintertime, I'm going to have a packet in the mail from my insurance company that will state in black and white, just like Grumpy said, that if conditions are bad on the road, don't drive. Period. It's going to have a safety briefing in this packet of mine when I get home. You're missing what Grumpy's saying. Grumpy's not blaming the trucker or the car. Grumpy is saying, pay attention to what your insurance company tells you, because they want you to do something different than what you might feel you're capable of doing. Does that make sense?
At 2 a.m.
Yes, I get that.
But at 2 a.m., can I call my insurance company and say, these are the conditions? No, we have to make a judgment call whether we're capable of doing something or not.
And your judgment call should be based on what your insurance wants you to do. So if it's 2 a.m. and weather's bad, as much as I would tell you to drive, if you think you're safe to drive, your insurance company might not want you to.
Well, if I went by that, then if I did what my insurance company wanted, I would just send them all my money and never drive, because that's what they really want.
Go ahead, Thumper.
Okay, so I'm going to go to a professional driver accident in his personal vehicle, because this happened to me in real life. I was in Sioux Falls. It was nice. It was sunny. Yes, it was wintertime, a little freezing. I was at a red light, and I got rear-ended by a car who slid on the ice in my personal vehicle, and I was liable for it because I held a CDL. Because I was a professional driver. I should have been watching out, and I should have got out of the way. It's what the cop told me, but when I took it to court, the judge looked at it, and he goes, you were sitting at a red light. So he ended up throwing it out in the long run, but when DOT or whatever, cops, whatever, when they do accidents, they look at it. If you have a commercial driver's license, you are automatically at fault whether you are or not. And if you're
automatically suspected at fault. But I mean, if anybody in insurance or investigatory capacity sees the facts for what they are, they might not necessarily do that.
Here's the thing: it's still on my, even though it got missed, it's still on your driving record, whether it's dismissed or not. Insurance will look at that, and they will still think that you are at fault unless you can prove it otherwise. I had to get a written statement from the judge for it to not affect my insurance, a commercial driver's license on my truck.
Right.
I've been dealing with this for the last year, so I know the insurance part very well.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Is that really an insurance issue or is that a cop issue? Because I had a totally different experience with a cop where he literally defended me at the scene of the accident.
It's an insurance thing. If you were in any kind of accident, whether you were at fault or not, unless you could prove it, you are always at fault with the insurance.
Well, what I'm saying is, if the cop, like, I'll give you the example. I was in a truck. I was at a red light. It turned green. I started speeding up. I was fully loaded. So it takes a little while to get up to speed. This is a few years ago. A lady going 70 miles an hour, looking at her phone or whatever she was distracted by, never even touched her brakes, 70 miles an hour into the back of my truck. The cop never once wanted to blame me. A matter of fact, as soon as he saw the scene, he knew what happened. And he literally said, when I was on the phone with my insurance company, he did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's a cop issue. I think cops should call a spade a spade. If it's not your fault, don't blame it on you.
Right.
That's a cop issue.
Now you're stealing my sayings. Keep it up,
I get what you're saying, John, but as an
That's the only
insurance
thing he's gonna steal
aspect,
from you.
it doesn't matter if you're at fault or not. The insurance will always claim you at fault unless you can prove it otherwise. And you
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier, Thumper. Because we have that golden stamp of Class A on our license, we are held to a higher standard. And I get that. I agree with that. I accept that. The problem lies in when we make those decisions that are crucial, and they're right calls and they're good calls. We are still not given the benefit of the doubt for that experience, that decision, and that protocol. We need to be if we're going to be given it on one side of the argument, we need to have the clarity of knowing it's on both sides of that argument. That's my point. So that's my stance on that. Which brings me to my final point. I mean, transparency. No, and I'm not talking about brokers. No, this is a whole different thing. Insurance companies basically give you, oh, we're going to charge you and we'll do this. But should they be required to do it a little bit differently? They'll give you the numbers. They'll give you everything. But what about these cases like we're talking about right now? When we do the right things, we put ourselves in the right spots. And then just like that, they jack our premiums up. They'll never explain to you why. They'll just do it. And then we're left holding the bag. So what's the solution there? What do you guys think?
And just like that, they can also just say no insurance. And then what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So it's both. It's on the same way. But, you know.
Insurance companies
so much no insurance
basically hold us right here.
Up.
Well, they'll do that too.
Yeah, yeah. To a degree. I mean, they have you over a bag, but, you know, I mean, what is that gaining the industry? Doing that kind of thing, what is that gaining anybody?
I'm not saying I disagree with what all of you guys are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Go ahead, Thumper.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead. You know, I want to hear you.
I'm not saying I disagree with anything that you guys are saying, but aren't we giving the insurance company a lot of power over sitting in our seat and making decisions that are our decision to make? Like, they shouldn't have that power.
Okay, who's the one that gives them that power? It ain't us. Because you ask every driver out there and every carrier out there, if they were given the choice to run with no insurance, they wouldn't fucking do it anyway. Pardon my French. It's not our choice. We have no choice. We have to run with insurance. So why in that decision process should we then be forced into a situation that eventually hamstrings us? That's my thing. We have no choice. We have to run with insurance. Why should it be in their power to ruin us?
100% you should, and they're not out to ruin you. But my point
they're not. But they can.
My point is, Grumpy's point was saying that don't do anything against what your insurance company would advise you to do.
True.
I'm not going to take advice from somebody that sits at a computer and never been behind an 80,000-pound vehicle. I'm sorry. I know what I can do.
Well, on one side, what he says makes
Wait a minute, John. Okay, John,
that may cost me. Hang on.
I commended.
Before you just go ahead and slap me upside the face. Let me finish. the idea that a guy at a computer screen can tell me whether the roads are safe or not is beyond me, because I'm on them. I'm looking at. Heck, if you're poet, you're walking on them. You don't get much better contact than that. By the way, that's a great policy. I thought that was awesome.
It is. I love it.
Now, how are you going to slap me in the face over that?
Go ahead,
Well,
Faith.
I was going to say, I spoke highly of you the last time you opened your mouth, and God forbid you open it this time, you put your foot right into it.
Right back in it, right?
The reason being, you're like, I'm not going to have some guy sitting at a computer tell me, I don't disagree with you on that, but that guy sitting by the computer understands how expensive it is for you to make that decision, and you have no clue how expensive it is. We're learning how expensive it is right now. $100 million. That's only
130
one
by
plus.
March. 130 million by March.
Like I said, John, I'm not in disagreement with you. I don't want to be told by somebody behind a desk what I should or shouldn't do. But I also don't understand the statistics behind that decision that we make, that choice that we make to get behind these trucks, even on a clear, beautiful day, statistically is probably very dangerous for us to do. We don't understand that because we're very comfortable with what we're doing. But the guy at the computer understands that risk.
Yeah. Here is an interesting progression of comments put up by Jackknife. I want you guys to see this. This is more of a civil judgment. The family suing Warner and their lawyers are combining a regulation of law to find a percentage of fault. Goes on to say, how about put it this way? If I was driving my car and, for instance, it was hit by the plaintiff in this case, the woman driving over the speed limit, crossing the median, I probably would have been able to sue her and her insurance company and win the judgment. I think he goes on.
I'm surprised Warner hasn't done that.
Yeah,
if you want to know the truth, I'm shocked Warner didn't do that.
Right. So, I mean, everybody has their stake in this. Jackknife makes a good point. There is a civil side, but then there's also the criminal side. They didn't find him criminally negligent, nor did they find Warner criminally. So now they're doing this on the civil side of this, and that's what this is all over. And they're trying to find Warner liable even at 1%, because that's all that you really need to get any payout or any closure, financially speaking. And that's what this is mainly over.
I think I talked about this one time.
Let me rebut what you said.
Fate. Okay, Fate first. Hang on. Go ahead.
Sorry. So I don't mean to derail your point there, boss man. But let me rebut something here real quick. So you're saying that truckers don't understand the position we sit in. I would say that's not true. Some truckers, the ones that don't do dumb things, the ones that don't drive on roads they shouldn't be driving on,
word carefully what you're saying, John. I did not say truckers didn't understand that. Think about what you just said.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Fate.
You're missing the point.
Most truckers don't understand. It said most truckers don't understand how unsafe it is what we do.
They don't.
I would say in some cases you're correct, but in the cases of some people,
Fate was talking about a perspective from the insurance company. That's what he was talking about, from the insurance company. That's what he was talking about.
No, boss man, hang on.
Yeah.
Fate, did you not say truckers don't understand how risky what they do is?
No, listen to my words. Once again, you didn't hear what I said.
Matter. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't think
what I said was
I got bad signal, not my fault.
What I said was statistically, you, me, all of us on this panel, like we understand the job that we're in, right? We understand the consequences of what we do, the risk, let's say. But we don't understand it at the level of a statistic percentage, meaning even on a clear day, when we think everything is great, a guy sitting behind the desk at the insurance company has an idea. Hey, there's going to be 1,000 steer tires blown out today and probably 3 deaths because of it. We don't know that because we don't know the insurance side of it where the guy's sitting at the desk. You understand what I was saying to you, John, was like, we have this idea of what we're capable of. There is a statistic that somebody behind a desk understands that if we make that choice, our likelihood of getting into an accident or hurting ourselves or hurting somebody else has just jumped up 45%, even though we might feel 100% safe. Statistics.
Firstly, Fate, I agree with that 100%. But my question to you is this: 15 or 20 years ago, would this discussion be going on?
So that's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah. That's what I wanted to talk about before John wanted to rebut something and act like he's smart. I'm kidding, John. I so hope you know I'm messing with you.
Keep going, dude.
How you like that, Fate? Ha!
Yo, that's not cool. My show, dude. Anyway, keep going, Fate.
I wanted to talk about what Jackknife said earlier. So the company that I used to work for, one of my friends killed a girl. Middle of winter, she pulled out of a apartment building. I don't want to say the roads we were on, but she pulled out of an apartment building in a Camaro in Minnesota. Camaro's rear-wheel drive. She spun out right in front of our truck. We ran the car over and killed the person in it. Our company sued her and her insurance company for the damage done to our truck and like a blown tire. The driver that hit this woman, he was never the same again. Because we were the first ones on the scene and we saw what you see in nightmares.
Yeah,
he was never the same, and he lost it at our employer when he found out our employer was suing this girl's insurance company for for a couple of tires and a bumper. After we killed somebody, you know what I mean? Not liable for it, but you know, you can do that. Jackknife's 100% right with that comment that he made. And I'm shocked Warner didn't do that.
Yeah, and just now, look at what he puts up. The judgment goes through. You think it's bad now with nuclear verdicts and whatnot. Instead of the lawyers chasing ambulances, they'll be the one operating the damn things. You know, funny as it sounds, I mean, that's kind of what I'm one of the things I'm afraid of. They have enough control over it, and you know, I mean, it's likely that we blame insurance companies. But the problem isn't the insurance companies. The problem is people outside of our industry that think they understand more of it than we do.
Listen, I made this comment earlier.
Yeah.
We're complaining about the insurance companies and everything right now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was 12 of our peers
that
awarded this settlement.
Let
that sink in. That's not the insurance companies. That's not anybody. That's true. There's 6 of us here. So 6 more people decided Warner was 94% to blame.
Hence the reason I love hosting this show. We're only half of a jury, but man, I'll tell you what, we have some damn lively debates, and we can get a lot accomplished on shows like this. So, I mean, you know what? Rates for truckers, both in freight and with insurance, are the biggest number that one item will keep our industry going. I mentioned earlier the 3 things. Well, one of them basically we've already talked about, and that's what I just said. Rates for insurance's biggest number, all that. Second thing of that is the scrutiny given to drivers that are given the keys. I mentioned this earlier, and I peppered this stuff out. I just want you guys to have this sink in. Think about it. The second thing that can turn everything around is the responsibility given to those untrained individuals or those less trained to operate a CMV currently seems to be lacking. And we don't have a lot of people. What? What are you pointing at? What?
Thumper wants to talk.
Okay, well, Thumper, go ahead.
I was waiting for you to finish what you were saying. I
was going to hand it to you anyway. I mean, you're totally blowing my steam away, but whatever.
Oh, no, we're messing around. We're having fun now.
I can tell. I mean, I'm looking and I got you in my right hand, peripheral vision. How old are you? I'm going to put y'all backstage. How old are you?
Anyways, I want to see. I want to see the court footage, and I want to see the dash cam off of the Warner trucks. They have dash cams.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever published. I don't think that was ever made available, honestly.
There's ways to get it. It's done.
Yeah.
It's over.
Well, no, I stand corrected. No, it is out there, and I think it was originally published back in 2019 when the accident happened.
Wait, if anybody gets that footage, send it to me.
Yeah, I would like to know myself because
I'll use it for your advantage.
Oh, come on, that's cold, Thumper. Now, come on, that's cold.
I want to see the footage, and I want to see the courtroom footage. How it actually all played out. Hey, by the way, boss man, nice cup.
Me too.
Yeah, right. There you go. I'm sure everybody wants to see because unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff with this courtroom, these hearings that weren't recorded. They're just privy to the parties, and we'll never know about half of it. But you know what?
Oh, they were recorded. They were recorded, and it is for public. You just got to find them.
Well, not every part of a lot of these hearings is public. Some of it is held in chambers, and that no one ever gets. The only people that know about are the involved attorneys. I know this firsthand.
Before you end this, because it sounded like you were getting to your last.
No, I'm not. But go ahead.
Let's do something here. There's 6 of us here.
You're right.
Let's do a vote.
Sure.
Is Warner and the driver liable for the death and paralyzing the plaintiffs? Let's start with you, boss man.
I don't think
a little bit that you've read. Okay. No.
Yeah. What I know of the
John.
case, I don't blame Warner. John, what say you?
I know what he's doing here. I'm going to say no.
Okay. 2 no's.
I know you too well.
Grumpy, you go ahead.
That's a nay on me.
Okay, that's 3. Poet, what say you?
Make it 4.
4s, okay. 4 no's. Go ahead, Thumper. What do you think?
Make it 5. Say no.
Okay, so far we're unanimous with the exception of you, Fate. What say you?
I say no.
Okay, there you go. You got 6 unanimous. 6 unanimous decisions says that Warner's not responsible. So now I have to ask the golden question. Now the golden question. Why bring that up?
So we like I said earlier, this was a judgment by 12 of our following peers.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many of those jurors had a CDL license.
None. I'll tell you why, Faith.
Then I think that's a problem. That is
I'll tell you why.
A problem.
I got pulled up for jury duty here. Oh, it's been well over 10 years ago while I was working at a company. The moment they interviewed me and I mentioned I was a commercial truck driver, I was dismissed because it was due to being involving something to do with traffic.
That don't make any sense. I understand what you're saying, but it don't make, if it's involving traffic and you're in traffic every day, why would I disqualify you?
Because it's conflict of interest.
Okay.
That's exactly what they told me. Conflict of interest. Because I know the law, therefore I would have probably, spoke my word in our meeting.
Well,
Jack Knight puts in, talking about dash cam footage, John, Jack Knight puts in, I don't know if it was ever released publicly because apparently the judge threw out the dash cam footage. He just read an article. So, I mean, he's apparently Googled it. So 7 C's weighs in. Welcome to the show. Didn't think you could make it. Thank you for doing that. Have to watch the replay. Random question. Yo, Thumper, you need a W900 in your bull hauling fleet. Mine's for sale. There you go.
I was.
Wait a minute here. What are you doing, 7 C's?
Get a hold of one of them. They'll get a hold of me, and we'll get in touch.
7 C's. What the hell?
Yeah,
Email
really
me.
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
No, you're gonna buy my Freightliner that's just sitting there.
All right, guys. I want to get to the second and third point that I highlighted. My thumbnail said I had 3 points. Second one is a level of scrutiny given to drivers that are given keys and the responsibility to operate a commercial motor vehicle, which currently seem to be lacking, and I mean in skill. Recently, as many equally feel, not just myself, that is sorely lacking in standards in this industry. And that will go a large way to helping us improve issues with insurance. Something we didn't touch on much, briefly, but I think it will help. The last thing I want to mention, and I think is of probably the greatest importance, is our approach to patience. All right? Thank you, Fate, for inspiring me to put this in as the comments. But not regarding ourselves, or not regarding other people, but ourselves, okay? We live in a society today, and that's immersed in immediate gratification, i.e. the TikTok comment made by the viewer earlier. That's going to be our undoing. We want immediate results. We want immediate yesterday things happening today, right? You don't achieve success or greatness with the expectation that without hard work, you don't get things done. Hard work takes time. Patience is equal to time. We need to get back to the patience of seeking God in our standards and relying on the plan He's put in our future. Patience will help us, and we need to get back to those standards. Those are my 3 things. If you all have anything to add to it, guys, let me know now, because I'm telling you what, I think that goes a long way. Fate, go ahead.
Well, I think patience is just huge in life in general. But I wanted to talk real quick about training. You brought up training, and
Sure.
we have a gentleman in here that is a carrier that I want to commend him on something. Because we have another panelist that's usually in here that's not in here tonight. But Thumper, we all know that another panelist works for Thumper now, hopefully still. What I ran into them, right? I ran into them. These two were in a flat top Peterbilt that has a dog in it, and they were probably sleeping, foot to face or one in the driver's. Like, he trained this guy well. And I think that's what's important. If you're a new CDL driver or a new CDL holder, find a company that will train you. Driving with John said earlier how he was just throwing the keys. We need training in this industry. We need
There's a picture of the truck.
There you go. Love that picture.
No, but I commend you on doing that, Thumper. And the gentleman that is working for you now. Like, the fact that he was willing to go through that, and I hope I'm not like being mean or whatever. Like,
no.
I saw the truck, man. You live in that thing. That wasn't like a big spacious truck like what I have. You live in that thing. So like I commend you on the training aspect, and anybody getting into this industry, training is so important. And I personally feel that no trainer should ever be asleep in the bunk while the trainee is driving. I don't care if it's your last day of training.
Yep.
That I would never do that.
Yep.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, he's still working here. So he's loving every minute of it. That's part of the reason why he's not with us tonight. I'm on my home time and he's out doing a load. So, but no, that's what we did for about 4 days. We took turns sleeping. He'd sleep in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat and stuff. We did what we had to do.
There you go.
So,
yep. Well, guys, truckers, we're in a fight for the soul of this industry. And as much as it pains me to say, whether it's insurance costs or misguided rulings, the deck may feel like it's stacked against us, but we're not going to throw in the towel. This is our industry. It's our livelihoods, and it's your future. If you ask me, it's worth fighting for. So what's your say on that, Thumper?
I don't know. I mean, we had a pretty good show, and we're just the little guy is all it is. I mean, we really don't have a whole lot of say in it. You know, all we could do is stick together, work hard, and try to fight it. I mean, that's all we can do. So, great show. Had a lot of fun. An hour and a half went by. I think we had a really good show, actually. A lot of discussion, a lot of art, but I think we all made our points across. But God bless all the firefighter, EMTs, police, everybody out there, military, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you want to say it. We don't do it just for families, we do it for you guys.
Amen to that. Well said, my friend, well said. I certainly agree with everything on that. I'll tell you what, doesn't matter what we're talking about. Sound off, let us know on below. Your opinion matters more than you know. While you're at it, subscribe to my channel. Look for us. This is where the truth gets told and solutions are born. Visit everybody on the panel. Give them the love they deserve. Driving with John, Grumpy, Midlife, State Truckin', Thumper, Larry, every one of them. You know, guys, when we stay strong, when we stay vigilant, together we get things done. It's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. And with knowledge and unity, we will together make trucking great again. Give us all a shout this time next week, 7 o'clock, when we're live again on another edition of Frontlines. Till then, keep it real, keep the faith, and by all means, keep it rolling.